Welcome back to Let's Play Morrowind the Underground 2 Overhauled. Sorry about the abrupt ending of the last episode. I just realised there was no point recording me just going back to Amanda's shack, southwest of Voss. Well, mostly west of Voss, but slightly southwest, like Cinder suggested. I hope... I'm not quite sure whether this episode will be entirely YouTube safe, we'll see. Anyway, let's get into the shack. Our journal has then been updated. Cinder and I have arrived at Amanda's house for some much needed rest, as he suggested. Yoo-hoo! Whew! What a day, eh? I'll say. And she goes, why don't you tell me about yourself? She already knows that Sneakers is brave and resourceful, but how did he get started adventuring in Vardenfell? Well, Sneakers kind of had those. He was actually a wanted criminal in Citadel. Ooh, a bad boy. She knew he wasn't a goody two-shoes. And how did he escape? Actually, Snickers was freed by order of the Emperor. You don't say the Emperor? Yeah, it seems he had plans for Snickers. Well, she says she guesses that Snickers' adventure started long before meeting her. Yeah. Snickers says that's true. He's not going to tell she's a footnote in his big adventure, that's for sure. Yeah, he's glad he met her. He's had fun in this quest so far, there's no doubt about that. I had fun with it too. Oh, you're so sweet, goes Cinder. So, well, why don't you tell Snickers a little bit about yourself? How is it? Yes, that you came to be more than your typical... Go on, well, indiscriminate blood-sucking fiend. Well, that's a long story. Let me take these boots off and I'll tell you about it. Okay. And she goes, feel free to do the same, Sneakers. Feet are probably aching after all that hiking. Well, actually no, Cinder, that was about the silliest thing you've suggested for quite some time since. Sneakers doesn't wear boots, he's a Khajiit, he cannot wear them! And her story, her father bit her and made her suck his blood, and she was quite frightened, as you can imagine. Yeah! And actually here we have a slight similarity with the Dawn Guard add-on for, or DLC for Skyrim, because we get a little bit of insight into our vampire companion's backstory, and indeed her father bit her and that was kind of scary, yeah, similar. And after that she said she began to feel an evilness creep up inside of her, and she craved blood, of course, but more than that she craved the hunt. Uh-huh. And apparently she wanted to catch people and make them suffer as she sucked their life out. Well, that scared her too. Well, Snickers can imagine, sort of. And apparently her father always taught her to make decisions for herself and not to let emotions cloud her judgment, so... Well, actually she doesn't usually do this. Sneakers has noticed she's got a bit of a temper, yeah, like with Amanda, for example. So she's not gonna let instinctual vampire feelings take over, she said. So are you some kind of forerunner of I don't know, those... I'm horrifically scared to say this, but that's actually sounds a little bit like, you know, those vampires who are almost, you know, decided to kill just bad people in that book, you know, in that movie, and that I'm not even going to mention the name of it. Fortunately, though, this mod came out long before Twilight. Oops! Didn't hear me say that, did you? So anyway, she didn't reach the conclusion of taking control over her animal vampire instincts apparently right away. Took her years before she was strong enough to fight her vampire instincts. Okay, so what did you do in the meantime? And she's evading that question. She might as well take these things off too. And so she's getting, yep. Okay, she loses the cape, fine. You should take off some of that heavy stuff too. You're here to relax after all. Alright, fair enough. Just on the armor a bit. I guess everyone can see where this is going now, including Sneakers, certainly. And the question is, how far is this going to be YouTube safe? I'm gonna, if things get out of hand, I might need to edit things a bit. Also, I'd rather not take off all this stuff. It's okay with some of this stuff, like getting the greaves. It's gonna make things a bit darker actually, but that's okay. Don't wanna... Okay. I really don't like... I've got something funny going on with all my enchanted clothes though, so it's a mess if I have to take that off. Anyway, so we were on with the story. After several years of bloodthirsty killing, it seems, Cinder finally took a look at herself, and as she was feeding off a young child, what had she allowed herself to become? A monster, and so she stopped feeding and tried to revive the child. Stayed with her, nursed her back to health. Fine, but how was she gonna live? Cinder, she did need blood, and rather than turn to a life crawling around sewers and living off rats, decided she would hunt the criminals who were wanted for murder. Okay. Right. Again, a little bit like that story, you know? After all, surely they deserve what they get. And you can compliment her on being a strong person, or just go to bed. Snickers does think she's a fairly strong person. In fact, this incarnation of Sneakers tends to, when people attack him, he tends to fight them. But he can sort of recognize, I think, that Cinder, as a vampire, has rather a more... I mean, in order to stay alive, she actually needs to drink the blood of others, I suppose. And... fighting murderers is something that Sneakers is also willing to do if pressed, although he would, prefer to avoid fighting them. It's not really as if he can take the moral high ground. It's not as if he hasn't killed a bunch of fighters and murderers and killers anyway. And you can compliment her on her remarkable conviction. What must to defy your instinctual needs like that? Oh, yeah, Sneakers is so understanding. And appreciates she appreciates him talking about herself and listening to the story. That's a pleasure, Cinder. Sneakers does like to get to know you better, no doubt about that. And apparently she feels the long way, and she's had so much fun travelling. But now no more talk. And there's a long, slow kiss. And then